Now let's do ordinal variable examples. Remember, ordinal variables are categorical variables with ordered categories. Our next research question is, how often do people use their mobile phone to pay for a product or service? So B31 has 3 different categories, and if you look, there's a certain order to it. More than once a month is greater than about once a month, and about once a month is greater than less than once a month or never. And so when we run our output, we can answer the research question. 10.60% of people make mobile phone payments more than once a month. 23.06% make mobile phone payments about once a month, and 66.34% make mobile phone payments less than once a month or never. Now, the thing about ordinal variables is that cumulative percent is more meaningful. For example, we can say that 33.66% of people who answered the question use mobile payment at least once a month. So if you look here, that's this number right here. Well, 1 is more than once a month, and 2 is at least, or it's about once a month. So we can say something like this. Now, the way it works with cumulative percent is starting with the first category, we just take the valid percent. So that's 10.6. And then for the next one, we add the previous cumulative percentage to the next percent valid. So 10.6 plus 23.06 is 33.66. And by the time you get to the last category, in this case, we only have 3, it should equal 100. So 33.66 plus 66.34 is equal to 100. Let's do another example. How many credit cards do people own? Well, that can be answered by variable F1, which has different categories that has an order to it, going from no credit cards up to more than 20 credit cards. And here's our output. Now, when it comes to something like this, it's pretty boring to just look at it in this form. So what we want to do is create a visualization to answer this question right here. So it's a lot easier. We could get a lot more out of this by creating good graphs. And good graphs, well, I'll let you read the chapter about data visualization, and then also here's some information that we will be using immediately to inform creating charts like this. So it has to be a bar chart, or it's called a column chart in Excel. So this is what a column chart or bar chart is. It could use frequencies or percentages, but percentages are usually easier to interpret. So that's what we're going to go by. So if you look, the 0 or no credit cards is about 18%. So that's right there, just below the 20% line. And then 1 is a little less than that, 16.38%, and so on. And everything should be labeled, should be clear, and it should be uncluttered like this. So that's what we're going to do next. Open Excel and then type in these numbers. Now, on a side note, if you don't have Excel on your computer, you do have access to using your university credentials to install Excel, or you could use office.com, log in with your university credentials, and then choose Excel to create your workbook that you can then download as part of your and you can submit that download as part of your submission for this activity. So for this one, once you have an Excel installed, type in this information. One column would correspond with a different number of credit cards. So no credit cards would be 0, and then 1, 2 to 3, 4 to 8, and so on. And then look at the percent valid to go with each one. So 18.37, 16.38, and so on. In your Excel sheet, what you want to make sure is for this column, under home, choose text as your type of cell. And then for the second column with the percentages, you want to ensure that you have 2 decimal places and that you're using percentages. Once you have those set, choose all of them by clicking on 0 and then holding down Shift and clicking on 0.58%. Then the next thing would be to go to Insert, Recommended Charts, and then Clustered Column. And from there, you could resize this so that you can see it better. And then we'll get to work on adjusting this because we want to create a good chart. And a good chart is something that's clearly labeled, not cluttered, and easy to read. And it's also, in labeling it, it makes it easy to see exactly what we're looking at because right now it's not very clear. So let's start with the chart title. Let's make that a little bigger. Go to Home, make it 20 and bold. And let's call this number of credit cards owned by adults in the US. And then next, double click on the chart and we want to add the access titles because right now we don't know what these percentages mean and what these numbers at the bottom mean. So from the drop down, choose axes, and then more axis options. Let me try that again. More axis options. Oh boy. Oh, not that. Access titles and then more access title options. Okay. So it added a title to the Y axis and the X axis. Let's start with the X axis. Let's select all of them, make it bold and 14. And let's call this number of credit cards to make it clear what these numbers mean. And then over here, let's do the same with the making it bold and 14. And we'll call it what percentage owning. And when it comes to text, a good practice is to make it so that you don't have to turn your neck to read the text. So I want to change the alignment on this one, the text direction, not the alignment. So with the percentage owning text box still selected, click on the third option here, the third tab that's size and properties, choose the text direction and rotate that to where it's horizontal. All right. And then for this one, choose the percentages there and let's make it to where it's just to where there's no decimal places. That's what I'm trying to say. So with that selected, click on the access options and go to number and change the decimal places from 2 to 0. All right, so one more thing I'd like to do is to not have so much spacing, not so much of a gap between the different bars. And the way to do that is to make it wider. So click on the first one and under gap width, let's just change that to 75%. Yeah, there we go. So this is what I'm looking for you to submit, is that you create these charts using these, like what we just did, basically. And then going back to our PDF that I provided for you, you have a couple more opportunities to recreate the charts. So the next one for you to do is this chart right here, frequency of ordering takeout food. So create a chart that looks like this based on this R output. and then also one for this one. So by the time you're done, you'll have an Excel sheet with 3 different charts. So go ahead and use the same Excel file. So it's up to you how you want to do it. You could scroll down and add to it, or you could create a new sheet and create your next chart that way, and then create another sheet to create the next chart. All right, so I have one more video, and in this next video, I'm going to talk about the last part of the PDF before these different examples. So I'll be talking about research questions and the data analysis grid.